All right, hello everybody. We're back again with another one of my Disney College Program friends to discuss their time and experiences currently in the DCP and just have some fun. So today I got my friend Connor. Say hello.
Hello.
He is also another longtime friend of mine from my time in the DCP, but I figured for this interview it'd be more interesting or give a different perspective because Connor actually has a different job than I do. So, or that I did. Man, I still can't get used to talking about it in past tense.
Yeah,
But
it wasn't that long ago.
it really wasn't. I mean, it's only been what, like half a year, I guess.
If that, yeah, it hasn't been long at all.
Yeah.
But
So,
yes, so I work watercraft at Magic Kingdom.
and that's pretty awesome. I so that's like the ferry boat that goes to and from Magic Kingdom, right?
Yeah. So it's the ferry
Awesome,
boat,
awesome.
and it's also the resort launches and cruisers that go between the various resorts that are on that same on Bay Lake and Seven Seas Lagoon.
Very cool, very cool. So, first off, I'm gonna ask you some questions about like your time before the DCP. What inspired you to call it? I can't speak. What inspired you to apply for the Disney College program?
So when as I was sort of graduating college, I didn't really have an idea of sort of where I wanted to go. Um, and it's kind of funny. It's kind of stupid looking back on it. I partially I came chasing a girl. There was when I was on a study abroad in Britain, and hit it off pretty well with someone else who's also graduating. Um, at least I thought so. Looking back on it, there were definitely some red flags. That relationship was
Oof,
never going to work, but
oof, oof.
um, they were doing the college program after graduation. I'm like, I'm graduating in another 6 months or so. Maybe I'll see what happens. And so I applied. I got in, and the rest is history.
Yeah, I mean, how long have you been there now?
I've been here since January, so coming up
Yeah.
on 9 months,
Wow.
10 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, what was the application process like for you?
So application process was pretty straightforward. You go online, they have some documents that they have you fill out. Um, so give them a resume, letters of recommendation, all that good stuff. Same as any other job. And then if they contact you back, if they like what they see, they ask you to sort of, as part of the application process, they ask you to rank sort of various roles and based on what you would like.
Right,
That doesn't
right.
necessarily mean you're going to get anything that you ranked highly, but they do ask you what your preferences are. Then there's a phone interview where they call you and they sort of talk. I honestly don't know what they're looking for in the phone interviews. Um my phone interview. I guess the stories about the phone interviews always seem so dramatically different.
Right,
Um,
right.
but I think it's just like any job interview, right? They're just kind of they're sort of trying to figure out if you're a good fit.
Yeah, kind
So
of gauge your interest.
gauge your interest. Honestly, in my experience, a lot of times interviews are just as much as about like the vibes you get as much as
Yeah,
actual
totally, totally.
qualifications.
Yeah, that makes sense. Whether you have the personality to, work on the job and stuff, be part of the magic makers, as they say.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, with your role, when you were assigned, how did you feel about, being assigned to watercraft?
Well, it had been my top choice, so I was pretty stoked about it.
That's fair,
Um,
that's fair.
I was a little disappointed when I found out that college program in Magic Kingdom watercraft don't get to drive the boats, but as time's gone on, I've kind of been grateful that I haven't had to deal with that responsibility.
I mean, yeah, that's fair. That's a lot of pressure, I think.
Yeah,
I don't think I had to do it, but you
it's a
know,
lot of pressure, and it's a lot of sort of risk to take on, particularly as a college program intern, where we have significantly fewer protections for like in the way of like
right?
unions and benefits and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's a bit more base level, I'd say.
Hmm.
So what was your first day like with the college program?
So let's see. Wow, if I can remember that far back. My first day with the college program, like actual like we're talking actual training, or like are we talking about like first day showing up at Flamingo and
Let's say first day showing up at Flamingo.
all right, well, first day for showing up at Flamingo, they give you a you basically you show up, you get a packet, they take a picture, you get your IDs so they can start the process of making your IDs. Um, they have a little orientation video that's basically like, you know, don't be like jerks to each other, you
Right,
know,
right.
like that sort of thing.
Just be a good
Um,
person.
yeah, yeah, being like, um, then like they sort of go over like rules and legality stuff, like
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
making sure everything is squared away, reminding people that
Background
they
check
are
kind of
now
stuff.
adults and responsible for their own actions, all that good stuff.
Hmm. Yep.
And then they assign you a roommate. They give you a room. Hopefully, it's what were looking for. It's probably not. Um, but you know that it is what it is. And then they proceed to charge the crap out of you for the rest of your time for living in the for the privilege of living in college dorm environments. It's great.
Yeah, yeah. How's your room situation? Just out of curiosity.
So I'm one of the lucky ones. I had a medical accommodation where I have my own private room. Um, so I share a bathroom with one other guy. We have sort of a shared living space and kitchen
Nice.
with a total of four guys. Um, though realistically, it's more like five because one of them's got a boyfriend who practically lives here. Um, which I wouldn't mind about, but they have people over and they just don't tell us about it.
Yeah,
So it's just
yeah.
like, oh,
I
there's
got
a
it. That
random
could be
person
annoying.
sleeping on our couch, you know. Um,
Yeah, it's just a shock because like sometimes you're like coming in late from work and you just see somebody on the couch. You're like, whoa.
yep, exactly. But
Hmm.
it is what it is.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's the room is it's a fine size. It's not big. It's pretty small. Again, it's probably roughly college dorm sized rooms. Um, the big gripe is that for this little 4 bedroom 2 bath plot or apartment, they're charging a total of $3,600 a month in rent between the four of us.
sheesh.
Yeah, it's mill housing. It's kind of the kindest way to put
Yeah,
it.
yeah. I mean, you get the privilege of living at Disney, I guess.
Oh yes, yes. Dealing with
So,
the
now we'll get on to like the work stuff, I guess. So, like, what was your first day of training like?
So the first day of training, we had sort of a classroom day where we went over like what the uniform was expected, sort of the general map of where we were going to be, like an orientation type thing, um, and then we got some time to. Oh yeah, they talked. They basically told us about sort of what's allowed and isn't allowed on stage, or that's sort of like in areas where guests can see you at Disney World is considered on stage. They use a lot of theater based languages, or a theater based language.
Yeah,
because
like going on stage and stuff.
yeah, because in a way, a theme park like Disney, where they're sort of selling a fantasy or selling an experience, is essentially the same thing as a theater. It's just a very
Yeah,
large
it's
scale theater.
it's like so many
Um,
moving parts, and yeah,
yeah, exactly. So it's we're cast members, we're on stage, all that
yeah.
stuff. Um, so went over that. We got some. Oh, and then we were given a little bit of time to go get our costumes. They said they were going to give us time on the clock to get our costumes. We were allocated about an hour,
Jeez.
which was nowhere near enough time to get the costumes we needed. But
And see, that's interesting because for PhotoPass, we actually went like on the like first day of training to go get our work, so that's interesting.
yeah, that's not the way ours worked. We were again given basically, okay, you have to clock out at this time, but you have from now until then to go get your costumes, and it was about like half the time
Yeah,
we needed. So we
sure.
had to do the rest
Yeah,
of it on our own time, which was, you know,
probably was rushed.
yeah, it was. I wasn't,
Yeah,
I wasn't the happiest about it, but
costuming is a little overwhelming at first.
yeah.
Now, have you had any particular magical moments with any of the guests at the
Let's
parks while you're working?
magical moments. I mean, I've had good interactions with the guests. I wouldn't, I say I've had like, quote unquote, like, I haven't had any of those moments that they love to talk about in like the orientation where it's like,
Yeah, I mean, I guess being boat, unfortunately, it's not as like guest focused, I guess, like a personal interaction.
I mean, it can be, particularly in like when you're on the cruisers and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
it's generally people excited to go to the parks. You get to kind of play tour guide a little bit.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
fair. Kind of tell them where to go,
yeah,
you
give
know.
them some suggestions and stuff in the parks.
I think that
I've
makes
had
sense.
some. I've had some really fun conversations with guests and stuff on the way, and I get to be because I'm not in the park itself. I get to be a little bit more of a real person when I talk to
Yeah,
them.
yeah. That makes
Um,
sense.
which maybe the powers that be at Disney wouldn't be too happy to hear me say that, but I get to be a little more real. Like, hey,
For sure.
this I've done this several times. It's got a few issues. If you're looking for a similar experience that's a little bit better, I would suggest this one.
I mean, those people are appreciated, making sure people get the most out of their time. I think that kind of personal experience is usually appreciated. I certainly, while I was working, I would try to do that as much as possible. But like you said, you have to kind of balance like the realness with the Disney-ish look on life, I
Exactly.
guess,
Exactly.
which can be tricky. But most of the time, it's I don't know. I mean, as long as you're at the end of the day, as long as you were nice about it, I think it was fine. You're just like, realistically speaking, maybe go here instead of there. So, what what does a typical workday look like for you?
So typical workday. I show up at the TTC, the Transportation and Ticket Center. Try to be there about 5 minutes before my shift because that's when I can clock in, get a little bit of extra, time on the clock. Um, then I will call into Watercraft 13 is what they call it. They'll give me an assignment, basically say, okay, you're going to deckhand on this boat. And then I go to that boat and I deckhand usually for about an hour and a half to 2 hours. Then someone will come and I'll get to go on a 15-minute break, and then I'll rinse and repeat that, for a total of 6 hours. So
Wow.
I generally get 3 rotations in a shift in different areas.
Yeah.
Um, which that sounds
I was
pretty
about to
like
ask if it was the same boat. Yeah.
they usually move us from different boat around to different boats over the course of those 3 hours, which is nice. It sort of breaks up the monotony and stuff.
Sure, sure.
having that many short breaks may seem a little strange to some folks, but you also got to remember that we're doing this. It's not so bad now, but in the middle of the summer, we're doing this, and we don't have any AC out there, right?
Right,
We're
right.
just
You just
cooking
get the
for
air from the boat, and that's really
so
it. Yeah,
by the end of those 2 hours, you're like, oh my gosh, I need AC.
yeah. That makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, how did you feel getting like a behind the scenes look at how Disney runs its parks?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
So like what was it like kind of getting to see like a behind the scenes look at how Disney runs their parks versus like the average guest experience?
Uh, um, there are parts that I really respect. A lot of the artistic effort that goes into a lot of these things
100%, yeah.
is fantastic. Particularly as you see new stuff come out, and it's like, wow, there are some people who are really putting a lot of passion into a lot of these projects.
Right, right.
Fortunately, it all has to kowtow to our cartoonishly evil corporate overlords. Um, it is Disney is a mega corporation.
Yeah,
As such, the bottom line comes through. I'm sure they have optimization like algorithms deciding how much effort we put into keeping things nice and repaired, because it's like, well, how much cost can we cut on
sure.
band-aid fixing everything
Yeah,
before
yeah.
people start to
I've seen that.
notice, you know?
Right, right.
Um, so yeah, I have a ton of respect for the artistic side of Disney. I have become quite disillusioned and rather disdainful towards the more corporate aspect of it.
That makes sense. I mean, it does kind of seem like the more Disney grows as a company, like the less special it gets, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Now, how has the program like helped you grow personally or professionally?
Um, I'll be so it hasn't as much as I hoped it would. Um,
Yeah, okay.
One thing that it has done is I've got a year of working with Disney on a resume, which is good.
That makes sense. I mean, hey,
It
that's
also
still good.
Yeah, and Disney's customer service training is top notch. You know, when people see somebody worked
Right.
front lines at Disney in their resume, it's they
Sure.
know that that person is going to be able to do customer service well.
Yeah, like they can handle people decently.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and that's gotten me of some second looks in a few instances as I've applied to new jobs outside of Disney. But applying to jobs inside to Disney, it's one of the things that they draw new college program people in with, right? Is,
Yeah.
oh, it's you'll have access to the internal job boards, you'll have networking opportunities. Those are technically true, but the problem is that the jobs that a college program does doesn't give you any experience in areas that they need experience in for
Yeah,
if you want
I
to
could see that
apply
being the
to
case.
jobs that you would want in Disney, right?
Yeah, yeah. I
So
could see that being the case from what I
yeah,
remember.
so really what they're doing is because it is an internship, they can get away with a lot of stuff that they can't get away with for an actual employee.
Sure,
Um,
sure.
so they're cutting cost, like, and I've even seen it in the department. Right, they've cut down on the number of actual like part time, full time employees in favor of cycling in larger and larger numbers of just college program people, because they have to pay them less
Yeah, and the
and they
more
don't have to
college
pay
people
them
that come in, the
holiday.
less jobs. Yeah,
Yeah, and they don't get benefits,
yeah,
right? So
yeah, yeah.
again, it's the evil corporate overlords kind of sort of saying like, well, we can cut costs by not by basically you treating our interns as an expendable and replaceable source of cheap labor.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that being a case, especially for like the more like draining jobs, like say somebody working at like Cosmic Rays or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Um,
Like that would be hard to like move on to like something big after that.
yeah, exactly. Um, but yeah, and again, and this is like in case anyone hears this, this is not to say anything bad about my like team of managers or my leaders or any of the people that are actually like working with us. They're all sort of they're all sort of stuck at the whims of
I mean,
corporate
they're
as
all in the
well.
same boat at the end of the
Yeah,
day,
they're
right?
and yeah, at the end of the day, they're basically in the same boat. They're one or two steps above us, but
It's
they're
not
still
that
down
different in
here
the
in the
grand scheme of
trenches with
things.
us.
Yeah,
Um,
right.
it's the because and so here's the thing too. So like recently, I tried to apply for a part-time, full-time position. The decision to hire me or not was not made by any human person. Okay, they have a point system uh, based on if how many times you have been late or been sick.
Yeah,
I college programs like people actually have a stricter like you get more points as a college program than you would as a part-time full-time
right.
because they give you
Yeah, that was
points.
extremely frustrating.
Yeah, yeah, because they give you less leeway as a college program, and then when you have those points you become ineligible to transfer within the company, including to the
And
same
it
role
just
you're in.
bothers me because you don't get sick days, right?
No,
Like
no, you
you
don't
never
get
get
sick
sick. Like
days,
I
you
was
don't
sick
get
for practically
holidays.
the entire month of March. I was sick, and I still had to go in. That or I didn't go in, and I got penalized for it.
Yep, exactly.
One of the two, which I
Exactly.
think is a bit silly, even more than a bit silly, because you have people coming from all over the place. You have
Yep.
like Make a Wish children coming in, and you don't want to get them sick. You have the elderly coming in, you don't want to get them sick, but yet
A hundred
you
percent.
can't call out because you're sick.
100%. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
there's
it's
no
goofy. I
there's no allowance for sick days basically. If you're a CP.
yeah
If you're part-time full-time, when
yeah
you get 1 point for calling out sick, but you can stay out for up to 5 days on that 1 point.
yeah
As a CP,
yeah
every single one of those days is another point. And if you get
yep.
3 of those points in a 30-day period, that's a reprimand. If you get 3 if and then if you have one reprimand and 4 points total in a 6 month period, you're ineligible for rehire. Or ineligible
And
not
and
sorry,
that's
not
usually when
ineligible
they
for
like tell you to
rehire.
leave too, right?
Yeah, but ineligible for to move to a or for transfer within the company. Um which again that it's because they rather bring in more cheap CPs than keep CPs on.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It's
Um,
unfortunate.
yeah, yeah.
So
Sorry, I
on
didn't
to a
mean to
more
hijack your
no, no, you're
podcast.
good. That's I mean it's interesting stuff. I like getting perspectives because I remember that 1 month of March being especially hard because I had like back to back like COVID and the flu, and like they still like I couldn't like just call off sick and like recover. No, I had to either like frantically try to give my shifts away or just not go in and then get in trouble for having COVID essentially.
But yeah, yeah. But I guess like the point that I was trying to make though is that hiring decision was made entirely by an automated computer, right?
System.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
made entirely by an
Yeah.
automated system. Even the ones that actually do get hired, those decisions aren't made by any people who actually interact with the people getting hired. Nine times out of 10, a CP who moves from a CP to a part-time full-time job will have very few points, yes, but no one who is makes any of those decisions about whether or not they get hired will actually meet that person.
Yeah, and that's kind of silly.
It
That's
is.
even
It's
more than a little
incredibly
silly.
silly.
Hmm.
I know some of the people who are going part time, full time from my group, and like not to throw shade, but you know, I feel like there were other options that did not get part time, full time that may have been better
That
fits
would have
for the
been like the
company.
better
Yeah,
fit. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, that
And I'm
makes
not
sense. That
again.
makes
I'm
sense.
not naming any names. I'm not trying to start any drama. But it's just it is what it is. You know that
Yeah,
happens.
yeah. Well, moving on to a more lighter subject, I guess. I guess this will be my last couple questions. Those will kind of just be the fun questions, I guess. So speaking of Disney, what's your favorite Disney movie?
My favorite Disney movie. Oh man, I feel like that changes based on a day to day basis.
I get it, I get it. Yeah.
But I'm gonna go with Treasure Planet.
I mean, that's such an underrated movie. The vibes in that movie are super duper like cool,
And the
and also like the
animation is
soundtrack is really
beautiful. The
good.
soundtrack is good. Oh, so much fun.
Plus, you can't beat a good sci-fi story. It's sci-fi pirates, like that's
It's
awesome.
sci-fi pirates. Yeah, absolutely. And
That's so cool.
I also on just on top of that, I love that sort of experimental era that Disney's kind of tried to sweep under the rug
Yeah,
a little bit. You know, Atlantis: The
I know
Lost
what you're talking about.
Empire. Uh,
I think Meet the Robinsons kind of falls under that too.
yeah, it's a little bit. Yeah, a little bit.
Do you like Atlantis? I
Yeah,
think like most of like they had kind of like a sci-fi period because like I think Lilo and Stitch would even fit into that, but that was probably the most successful
yeah, yeah,
because that was Lilo and Stitch was like that was a time where like they were like basically like telling like their own like not fairy tale based stories, I guess you'd say. Most of it was like coming straight from like the minds of like the people who were working on the movie.
yeah, yeah.
Because like Lilo and Stitch was like an original idea. Like nobody like it wasn't based on like a book or
Mm,
something. And granted, Treasure
yeah,
Planet is based on the old Treasure Island book, but like there's
yeah,
enough creative differences where I think, you know, it's kind of its own identity. It's got its own identity too.
yeah, yeah,
I do kind of miss when Disney would do that.
yeah.
I think those movies have such a different vibe to them than like the like normal Disney movies.
I agree.
Oh, now, what is your favorite ride at Disney?
Favorite ride at Disney is Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind
And that's so funny because that's the only answer I've gotten while asking people this thing so
because
far.
it's the best
It's
ride.
so good. It's so good. No, it's my favorite too. I'd be a
I
hypocrite if I said,
I will say though, like from a like full on from a theater perspective, you know, from a like a full on experience, Rise of Resistance is actually like my favorite experience, but Guardians is my favorite
sure,
ride.
sure. I mean, those are both two really well done attractions. Like,
Yeah,
and how many of the songs have you gotten so far on
I think I've
Guardians, just
gotten
out of
all of them
curiosity?
now.
You've gotten all of them now?
I
Do you have a
think I've
favorite?
gotten all of them. I've been on the ride like 8 or 9 times. I think I've got them all.
Fair enough. Do you have a favorite song that's on the ride?
Mm. All right, you know what? This is a controversial one. I actually really like Conga.
See, I'm gonna have to disagree with you on that one, but I think that's for me because I keep getting that song so many times that it's just
That's
like
fair.
not fun. I still like either Iran or Everybody Wants to Rule the World because I think they fit the kind of like '80s aesthetic
They are very.
pretty
Those are
well.
both very good. There aren't a lot of bad
Yeah,
choices, but I don't know.
I mean all
Like,
the songs on the ride are good. Like there's no bad song. It's just some are
yeah,
less good than others.
yeah. I just and it's like the. It's funny too because like Conga is like probably my least favorite song in and of itself in that ride.
Yeah,
But it's
yeah,
just kind of like a just a fun, goofy vibe to set, and it's kind of
yeah.
I enjoy it.
That's fair. That's fair. Do you have a favorite restaurant that you've eaten at Disney?
Hmm. Well, Space 220 was really cool.
That was probably the best steak I ever had. It was so good.
It was so cool. I really enjoyed Space 220.
That was a lot of fun. That was fun.
Um, for people who may not know, Space 220 is basically set up as a the idea is that the restaurant is in a space station. Okay, so you like ride a space elevator up to the space station. They've got these
There's like a whole
big floor
pre-show
to
to it.
ceiling
Yeah.
windows that you can see like the Earth out of, and like space
Right,
shuttles
right.
floating by. It's a really
And like
cool.
spacemen floating by too, I think.
Yep, yep. It's a really cool experience. It's funny.
100%.
I
Alright.
keep seeing on Facebook people post the video from the elevator for Space 220 as
Yeah.
this is what a space elevator would look like, and it's like that's just from Disney World, guys.
Right. It's got a little creative liberty.
Yeah.
Alright, so Connor, what was your favorite memory from the Disney College experience?
So a lot of the best memories that I had from the Disney College experience had to do with the friends and stuff that I made while I was here.
Sure.
So one of the best memories, my best memory, I think, was probably the Disney College program night at Animal Kingdom that we did. It was, I think it was you, me, Angie, and Carol.
Oh,
I remember a few other people being there.
good times, good times.
Yeah, it was a blast. We basically had the Animal Kingdom all to ourselves at night, which was kind of fun because the park's really not set up for night. It was
Right, you
dark.
don't get Animal Kingdom at night too often.
Yeah, yeah. Um, but yeah, they don't even do those anymore, which is a bummer. But
It's unfortunate, yeah.
yeah, uh,
It's that makes me mad.
it does me too. I'm not even going to my like my final
Final
bow
bow.
thing because they just made it like another one of the stupid flamingo parties.
Yeah, yeah,
It's like, oh yeah, here's a free pizza and a high
yeah. Like they,
high school dance DJ. Have
it's
fun.
yeah. I'm interested to see what the turnout is for that. If it's actually
It's,
gonna get like,
it's gonna be so low. Everyone is so pissed.
yeah. I mean, I think it's fair. I mean, you have these people coming in saying they got the entirety of like Animal Kingdom. Like that's awesome. A little flamingo
Mhm.
party. That's not awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah. So, anyways, I think that's gonna wrap up our conversation for today. Do you have any other last thoughts before we exit? I guess.
Um. I guess my last thought would be if you're listening to this and you're thinking about doing a Disney College program, really weigh your options. They're
Sure.
cutting down a lot on the benefits that you get from it.
Yeah.
They've gutted the program where they'd help pay for your college.
Yeah. I do remember
They've
hearing about that.
they've the housing that they strongly suggest you stay in is quite expensive for what you get. They
Sure.
do it's the negatives pile up and they keep giving us less and less benefits for it. So,
Yeah.
for some people it's still the right option, but just make sure that you go in with your eyes wide open because it's not going to be easy. You're going to be working at the bottom of the barrel, doing the bottom of the barrel jobs,
Yeah.
and they will sort of try to oversell the benefits you'll get as a result.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Connor. I appreciate you. And to all the listeners out there, thank you for listening. And have a good rest of your day.